So here's a stunning headline. Carlsbad properties are down 12.8% a year according to the Zillow Home Value Index. Now, what I gather, and from my experience, I think this would be sort of like an estimate. Well, here it says Zillow H is built from the ground up by measuring monthly changes in property level estimates. Captures both the level and home values across a wide variety of geographies and housing types. Now, I asked ChatGPT to go examine the rough data, and I'm going to pull that over, and bear with me because I asked him numerous questions, but I did zero in on our first answer. So I asked if it could find any data consistent with this, and it showed down and ups, right, in parts of Carlsbad. So I'd say that's not entirely consistent, but it developed the idea that the middle tier of prices in Carlsbad, in the ones between the ones and the two, and between 1 million and 2 million, were down. But I asked it to explain it, and it gave me more like it's part of the index answer, and I didn't necessarily believe the answer, right? And then I asked it to make a video on it just to see if it would repeat the data from above, and it did that. But I want to show you some more interesting things. So here we have, I'm going to make it bigger. I asked for other spots that it could pull together and show properties that were down, and it did. It came back here. You can see Mount Laguna, Gaslamp. These are declines greater than 5%. So all these spots have declines greater than 5%. Little Italy, Marina District, Barrio Logan, Borrego Springs, Colina, Terralta, East Village, Harbison Canyon, Cortez Hill, Gaslamp, Mount Laguna. So it really zeroed in. And then at the same time, the city was only down 1%. So what? Okay, so if you look back at the last real estate crash, I lived in Carlsbad. We sold our home because it doubled. It was an amazing amount of money for a young family at the time. We're like, woohoo! We made all this money. We don't have to pay taxes on it because we were below $500,000 in profit. This was the early 2000s. We bought a house right after that we got married, and within a year, the house pretty much doubled in Carlsbad. So we're like, let's go to Florida and do it again. We got smoked in Florida. We had a short period of time to sell the property. We had a contract that was good. We would have made profits. We would have been great. We didn't take it. And then we got smushed within 3 or 4 months. And we sold and got rid of all our properties there and went to $70,000. We brought $70,000 to the closing table on our fourth property just to get out because they didn't have anti-deficiency there. I started blogging. I started my website, upsidedownrealestate.com. We came back to California, and it was still a year before everyone knew properties were down in California. But there were pockets starting to happen because I was looking at it, and everyone was telling us to buy a home. We're like, we're not buying a home until, we think it's time, and the properties are down. Well, we eventually did. We timed the market within 3 months, and in future videos, I'll talk to you about how you can start doing that. I can say that it's going to be apparent to you probably because first properties are going down, 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 down. And all of a sudden, the pockets of neighborhoods where things were down, it starts disappearing. I remember there was a movie out, Contagion, at the time, kind of prophetic considering COVID. But like it was like boop, 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 boop. But it was reversed. It was like boop, 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 boop. All these places I want to buy, boop, 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 boop. They started disappearing within like 3 months. All the places that could fit a family with 4 kids in a price that we could afford like disappeared. Just boom. Solana Beach, where we're playing a lot of golf, gone. Encinitas, only certain areas that, in my opinion, were maybe the weaker schools, didn't explode off the bottom. So we wound up buying a home in, where we live now, in Poway, and Poway went up right thereafter. So, you want to gather your money, you want to be ready, and when you see that reverse, boop, 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 you got to be ready to go. Now, there are other ways to do this, but, that's what I want to explain to you. Right now, we're starting to see, like, the maps that you might see as a contagion spreads. I mean, this is a pretty substantial list of pockets of San Diego where that we just covered, where prices are starting to fall apart. And we know many, many home sellers are aware of it. We know days on market are going up. people complaining about there's been no buyers. It seems like buyers are on strike. This is an indication that things could be going wrong unless somehow the Fed decides to do something that could drop interest rates or some other exogenous shock comes into the system. I have been not, I did not, when I was getting calls and doing things, I put up videos like, my deed in lieu while you were current. We had a deed in lieu where the bank said, yeah, we'll take that deed in lieu. And we had negotiated, my client had no late payment. She was still current. And we explained why this was a great deal for their investor and they should take it, leveraging the law, customizing our deed in lieu package. We finally got it escalated. That's part of a really good deed in lieu, is putting the stuff in there that the servicer understands they need to have it. They sort of have a duty to explain this to their investor, the owner of the loans, that they should consider this offer. Like it wasn't about the bank doing us a favor. It was about my client being aware of the law, leveraging the new laws, which I'm going to cover, have changed. And therefore, this investor needs to be aware that they can do this now, or they could be out a lot of money in the future. And like when you get at this 10% data in Carlsbad, this is something you would bring up. There are other things you would bring up, but let me just tell you, you've got a standard loan workout package. That's the bank's. The bank wants you to fill that out. It's usually pretty similar, whether it's whether you're looking to stay in the property and do like a loan modification or forbearance. And frequently, a lot of people don't find that very interesting because the bank just gives you a break and then tax it on the back. If you can do better than that, that's something to continue. But if you think the market might be going down, do you really want to deal with the consequences later? These are things you have to ask. But that's their package most of the time. They have different names for them at different banks. But the point is they want to know they want a roadmap to your assets. Now, these banks are usually located in other states. They're not aware of California anti-deficiency laws. They think they're doing you a favor, and you have to kindly explain to them why you might be doing their investor a favor if you're going to consider a loan workout where you're leaving the property. Now, my favorite way to approach them right now, because it's the beginning of the market, that's when deed in lieu worked in the last market, 2008-9, and now I just was asked, the person, when we got it escalated, said, why are you doing a deed in lieu instead of a short sale? And I told him, he told me he had 15 years experience. And you may recall, in the beginning of the last market, banks were okay with deeds in lieu. So in fact, sometimes they were happy with deed in lieu. And I explained, because my client wants out while she's current. And we're making this deal that's really good for your investor, because the investor gets the property back a year from now. It could be down 5 or 10%. California could have a moratorium on foreclosures like we saw during COVID. It's brooms. I went through all the things, all the worries the banks have that I've done. I said, we're going to guarantee all that. I'll take pictures of the property if you need it. But you have to understand, my client's well advised. If you make her go current, your client, your investor is going to see a seriously devalued property. Not that my client's going to harm it at all. My client's going to keep it broom swept. We're going to always keep it nice for you. But these are all the reasons why this property is going to be worth so much less to your client. Plus, because of California law, the foreclosure timeline, which is about 4 months, because it's been extended by the federal timeline, another 4 months, and because of California laws, and I detailed the laws, I said, as a lawyer, my client knows that she's going to be able to stay in that property without paying you about a year. You make her go late, and you're going to lose a lot of value. And so therefore, we want to make your investor an offer on these terms. And by the way, these terms are pretty simple because she's still current, so you don't have to worry about fixing late payments or anything. It's just straight up, my client's exchanging pristine credit for your investor, getting a great deal, and she's foregoing all these good things that I've advised her she's aware of, and she's like, well, let's give the bank a little chance here. Like, that's a deed in lieu. A short sale would be similar. There's the standard short sale thing a realtor can do. Then there's a way to position it so you get the results you want rather than the results the banks want to give you. And remember, they're not lawyers in other states. Don't go in there and being arrogant. You go in there with the right tone, knowing they're going to give you a hard time and say, oh, we lost your documents. You got to resubmit them. You need a good fax package. You got to say very nicely, great, I'll get it right back to you. Can I check later today to make sure that you got it? And they'll go, oh, no, you need to give us 48 hours. So you call them back in 48 hours. And they're going to say stuff like, you don't have the loan number on all your documents. And you can see the image in your file. You're like, well, yes, I can. And you're like, well, I'll get that over to you right now again. But in the meantime, can we talk? Like, you just have to be nice. But you have to be firm, and you have to explain why they're not going to get what they would get in Florida, where everyone's a recourse loan. Which now brings me to another point. everybody who's thinking about a short sale has to understand this. The Mortgage Debt Forgiveness Act expired December 31st, 2025. It was good. We had it for about 15 years. So you can go to my channel on YouTube for Listing Attorney, and you can see some of those videos. I warned people that there were people in California who could get a better financial result by taking a foreclosure than doing a short sale with respect to taxes. That issue has returned because the mortgage debt forgiveness expired. For 15 years, everything you saw on the net, everything your realtor did, they can tell you, don't worry about it, you're not going to owe taxes, provided you fit with a typical home seller. I'm not saying for properties that get foreclosed upon when you're someone guaranteeing a loan. I'm not talking about those situations. Normal circumstances realtors are dealing with. Nobody, not the negotiator, not your realtor or the home seller, really ever had to worry about the fact that the bank was going to send them a 1099 for $100 or $200 or $300,000 and worry about the tax consequences. There are people, like in some states, all they have is recourse loans, like Florida. I don't know what those people are going to do if they didn't talk to an attorney ahead of time, because if they're not insolvent or they're not bankrupt, and especially like it's a second home for someone up back east, they could be getting $150,000, $200,000 tax bill. I mean, that's a stunning risk. So you always want to talk to an attorney, and that's why, you can go to underwaterrealestate.com if you're looking in any state, anywhere in the country, to get put in touch with a realtor attorney team. But in this case, because I am a California attorney and realtor, and I do have a network of realtors who can work with all over the state, if you just, click the link, actually, this isn't going to be an ad. So you're going to want to go find us at either listingattorney.com or underwaterrealestate.com, and we'll talk to you about your options and a free consult. But now I think, that's a pretty amazing drop. And I think, especially if you're current, this might be time to consider your options. One thing a lot of people also don't consider is that you can manage with our very long foreclosure timelines now, and the additional things an attorney can do to keep you in your house longer. You can manage your exit time, and you can manage your savings. And yes, if the first thing you want to evaluate is, if I let my bill run up an extra, let's say it's $5,000 a month, $60,000, will I have to pay taxes on that? Will I owe on the deficiency? And if you can be assured no, well, that gives you maximum flexibility. So, even though you're not planning to go out to the end of the next school year, you might want to start right now with a deed in lieu while you're current. If the bank says no, then November, December, you stop paying, and you're not going to have to get kicked. They're not going to be able to foreclose upon you till after the school year's over. So you could start your short sale after the school year ends and still give yourself enough time to avoid a foreclosure. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but I'm just saying now is the time to continue planning your out and putting the benefits in your pockets, rather than being passive or let the bank dictate things to you. Our strategy is to figure out how to accomplish your goals and dictate things to the bank to some degree, not arrogantly, but leveraging California law. My name is John McConnon. I'm a real estate attorney and a broker. I founded Upside Down Real Estate in 2007. I've done hundreds. I advised on and negotiated hundreds of short sales for people back then. The California Association of Realtors had me train realtors on a list, sell, and negotiate short sales. Back when realtors couldn't get it done, I actually gave them the unlock to getting a lot of these things done. Now, I'm not going to do that until they get the mortgage debt forgiveness. If they pass the Mortgage Debt Forgiveness Act again, then I think realtors are competent to do it, and I'll go train them in that. But otherwise, right now, my training is you must have an attorney and a realtor on your team. So if your realtor wants to be on our team, go to underwaterrealestate.com. Anywhere in the state or really the country. I'll bring in, I still know some lawyers in Florida that know this stuff. I'll see if they're interested, and we'll get everyone trained up. So that's where we are. Stay tuned, because of that number and what we're seeing, and those other numbers showing there are pockets of San Diego already down 5%. We are going to be initiating our coverage on this short sale foreclosure situation statewide, beginning tomorrow. This was just our evening commencement. Thank you, John McConnon, listingattorney.com and underwaterrealestate.com.